Hello you beautiful people. In this video I'm using clips from my last stream to show how I approach action shots in Gran Turismo 7's excellent yet hidden photo mode. So take it away past me. Let's have a look at what we can capture from here. So with online racing, instead of it you just being able to watch the replay, because again you would hold people up, when you save them, they go down to here, showcase. Excuse me. So we're going to have a look at my items, and we're going to have a look at this one, daily race at Road Atlanta. This is why I consider it to be a hidden photo mode. So I'm just going to actually show you it now. So we'll look through the different standard cameras. So you've got some really nice angles there. You can even got cockpit view. But what I tend to do is I go to walk mode. Now, where this excels in comparison to other photo modes, especially like the shooter ones and puzzle and like story-based ones, is I can literally walk around the entire track with this, which I think is fantastic. And that's kind of cool. Now again, going to zoom right in. I like the angle, so I'm actually just going to lift it up a little bit. That person is more interesting. Let's just bring it on both of them. I'm going to keep it a wide aperture. I don't need a great deal. So first we're going to crop the picture into a portrait. I just need to frame it up. I'm looking at the shadows, thinking that will make quite a nice one. So let's give that a look. No, not quite. We just need a little bit more space at the back of the, I want to say Galaxy, but it's a Genesis. That looks about right. Yeah, about there. So now we're just going to increase the clarity just to bring a little bit of the highlights up. And not too much. Then going to just put a bit of fade in, and that just stylizes the picture more than anything else. It's more of a personal preference for me. We're going to increase the shadows just to bring some more detail into the picture, and drop the saturation slightly just to try and make it a little bit more realistic, but with that style of the fade. And it's quite delicate. And as you can see, it's got a bit dark, so I'm just going to increase the whites a little bit and then go across to the exposure. And it's a bit brighter than I want, so drop it down to 2. And that gives me a bit of wiggle room with the vignette. So I'm going to drop it in, and the vignette really draws your eye to the center, but it's a little bit too dark, so I'm just moving the vignette to just the corners. And again, I'm just balancing the corners with the amount of vignette. And I'm pretty sure I'm saying vignette wrong, so I apologise for that. But there's the picture. I don't think this is going to work. Is it going to work? It's going to work. Haha. So this is definitely where I was going with this. Everyone in the middle, bit of space in between, but really I want these guys at the top. Focus being on the McLaren. Aperture needs to be wide. Shutter speed, again, really quick. Let's try that. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to increase the aperture, but I'm going to only do it to 8. Decrease the speed. I'm going to sacrifice the drama or action for a little bit more clarity. And that didn't seem to work at all because it's still got a strange effect. It's reduced. So let's try reducing the glare. To about 23. Let's try that. Okay. So I'll take that. Save it for anyone who wants to see it. And again, I was really happy with how the angle was. But I like the amount of space around the McLaren. Going to focus on the driver. And I wanted to get that before I make any adjustments. And the simple adjustment is just a little tilt. Just like that. That's all I wanted. Now, you've got the Aston, you've got the Supra and the Ferrari all on different corners of the centre square. The two cars in the background are still, they're sort of on the centre line if you had a crosshair in it as well. So it's fairly balanced. But with the use of aperture, you clearly see what the main focus is, and that those in the background are more not even secondary elements, they're third elements. You've got nice space either side. If I could, I would get rid of those signs at the side of the track just to make it a really clean picture, but alas I can't. Again, we're going to crop the picture into portrait. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, a little bit. I just want to get the McLaren driver in the bottom left hand thirds. So where the two lines meet. That's about right. So next we're going to go across, and the HSL allows you to do the different colours. I'm just going to drop the the luminance first on the orange, just to make it deeper. And then that'll give me some scope to reduce the saturation of it. Try and bring it a little bit more in balance with the rest of the cars. Because as you can see, it is quite bright. Okay, so now we're going to drop the overall saturation and drop the blacks as well, just to give the picture a little bit more depth. Try and get that about right. Okay, I'm happy with that. And again with the highlights, I'm going to drop that, and it's again to put some depth into that orange. And the vignette, very, very slight. It's just a little bit off center. I'm just going to move the cars across. There we are. And again, making sure, actually I'm making it more central for the bottom left thirds. Let's try down there. That looks about right, and the track's quite central as well, so I think that's quite a nice feature. So again, let's try the vignette, but let's try positive so it brightens the corners. That's a bit too much. Then I've gone down to the negatives, and just a slight amount too will do. And there we are. Oh, why did I have to choose matte colours? I mean, yes, that's very much very close to what you would expect on the Ferrari engine. And this is exactly the reason why I'm zooming in on the Ferrari engine, because that's just a work of art. They know how to dress an engine, the Ferrari. Oh, it's not a focusable element. Oh, that's a shame. Oh well, we'll have to look for something else interesting on this car to look at. In fact, we've done a lot on a Ferrari before, because first place. And I love this photo mode. I really do. Then you get a gem like this, just by looking around. A little too blurred, actually. Because what I was really interested in is the sense of movement, and again, the leading lines. I mean, yes, he's slightly off, is the Supra, but I kind of like the position of it. But we just need to reduce that aperture by quite a bit. So again, we're going to crop the picture into portrait. It's quite a nice balance of pictures. With the shadows, again, I want to increase the amount of detail, so I'm just adding a little bit of that, and then some whites, I'm dropping it down, trying to maintain the balance of colours, well, of light, sorry. And yeah, that's about right. So now let's have a look at the highlights, because we've decreased the white, so we're just going to balance that by increasing the highlights. And then a slight drop in saturation. Let's see. No, about there. And again, vignette to draw your eyes into the most important parts of the picture, and here we are. I don't know why, I just feel like there's something interesting around here, picture-wise. And again, I'm stepping back a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to experiment. I'm just a sucker for those lines. Right, that's as far back as I'm going to go, and that will give me options for cropping. Well, that was a nice easy picture to take, so now let's just crop it. I want to center it on the driver, and by center it's the middle square. I mean, generally, if you imagine a crosshair, then that's where you'd want it to be. I'm actually choosing the upper third for the driver's helmet, and that's quite a nice crop. So now let's go across to the shadows. Let's just bring that up a bit because it's a dark picture and we want to get as much detail as possible. Again, I'm just going to adjust the highlights, just increase that more. And let's just drop the saturation, because when you increase light or contrast, it does tend to deepen the colours. So you just need to combat that by reducing the saturation. And then I just want to add a bit of fade, which, as you'll see on the tarmac, it just brings a bit more light into the picture. And that should give me enough wiggle room for the vignette. So a small amount of that, and a little bit more exposure. Okay, that's bright, so I think I'm happy with that. We use the bridge to frame this car. That's the idea. Reduce that glare massively, just so I've got detail in the car and that you can see the bridge a lot clearer and the rear wing. I feel like a tilt is needed. Quite extreme as well. F 5.6. I want the bridge to be quite sharp. I mean, I know it's only effectively a frame. So first of all, we're just going to crop into portrait and center it. Zoom in a bit more. Actually, center's okay, but I rather liked more of the road in front, so I'll have it in the top right thirds. That just adds a bit more story because you can see where the car is going. Now, next we're going to have a look at, let's do highlights, because there's still quite a bit of flare on the windscreen and the bonnet. Going to increase, no, let's not do that, let's do contrast. And I'm going to increase that just slightly. Two's about right. and then adjust the exposure. Sorry, finger slipped. Let's try again. Here we are. That's okay, but we need to drop the saturation because we've been playing with the light. We need to balance that out and make it look a little bit more realistic. Let's try Vignette. Okay, I like that, but it's a bit dark. No, it's too dark. Let's try 3. -3, that is. -1, no. -2. That looks about right. And it's more of a feeling than a sight. It's hard to describe. I'm going to drop the whites because it's standing out too much on that car. The highlights, I'm just going to increase it slightly, or reduce the amount it was decreased by, just to brighten it a bit, and that should give me more scope for the vignette. Not much. -4, -3. And again, I just need to drop the saturation a tad. And that is looking about right. I'm suitably impressed that this car does not appear to have been touched, so a smooth driver. And bearing in mind, this is after he went sideways right next to a is it a Galaxy? What were they called? Genesis. That's it. Cars really are photogenic. I mean, maybe because I'm a bit of a petrol head, but I just think they are so photogenic. Really are. I mean, it helps that this is a chicane. It's got a hill before it. It's a really interesting section of track. But if I save that before going, if I adjust the aperture right down, great picture. In fact, that actually looks like a better picture. Before I take that, again, glare is a bit of an issue on the front. I want to eliminate it completely, but when you start losing detail from the grille, and that's where I'm focusing on right now as I reduce it, that's just the right amount of adjustment. I'm going for a more stylized picture with this one. So first of all, I'm going to crop it. See center? No, we're going to try moving it back a bit. Have more of the track in front. Let's see how that looks. Not quite. So we'll go back to having the headlight in the center. And just imagine the crosshairs. That's where I want it. But a little bit below that. I'm happy with that. So now we're going to drop the saturation to give it more of a silky look. And that's about right. So we're going to drop the shadow. That gives it more depth. And the contrast, I'm going to reduce that, which will flatten the picture somewhat. And with the exposure, I'm going to drop it to give it that more darker appeal. So let's reduce the clarity as well. And again, we're going to balance out the saturation, and it brings a little bit more brightness to the white, even though I'm reducing that. Some vignette, just to draw the eye in. And that's the edit. I hope that I've not only given you ideas on how you'd like to approach screenshots, but also introduced you to a great feature in Gran Turismo 7 that you might not have known about. If you'd like to see more of these videos or catch my stream, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. So goodbye.